From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Barris here on a Tuesday, and got a good show. I want you, if you don't mind, to really take a moment, get your thoughts together, and join in the conversation. We took a day between the debate and now to kind of let things, I can't say settle in, because you could say nothing's really settled in this presidential race. But, of course, the debate on Sunday, everything that came out of that, of course, what happened over the weekend with the damaging video and the audio recording of Donald Trump, and then what happened yesterday, which was one reason we wanted to see what type of reaction fallout came after the debate involving Republicans, Paul Ryan, Donald Trump's reaction, Hillary Clinton's reaction. We're going to get into all of that today. It's not so much about who you think won or didn't win that debate, but more about what we think we take from it and where we go from here. The number 737-7587. Some key points I want to hit on with our guest, and I want your take on it as well. I know many of the viewers on this program support Donald Trump. Okay, I want your take going up from here and see what you think about the future for him. I know many of you as well also support Hillary Clinton. Your take coming away from all this, and if there's anyone out there that is truly undecided, I'd love to hear from you, but I'm beginning to think that really doesn't exist. I think even someone who says they're undecided has an inkling of which direction they're going to go. I'm not sure. If you're still undecided at this point in the game between such contrary opponents, frankly got to ask some questions about you. Come on, where are you at on this? I mean, they're completely different and you're undecided. But if you are, and I think maybe some people looking for a third-party candidate or maybe not voting at all, and I can understand that, but I'd like to hear from you as well. So 737-7587, but before we get to the phone calls, and like I said, I really want your take. We're going to be talking with our guest this morning from over at MTSU, political science professor John Weil. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Nice to have you on.
Good to be here.
All right. Obviously, a lot of people talked about the debate yesterday. I don't want to rehash old things, but as you watched it, give me your take coming away from it and where we go from here. And your first, I think everyone wanted to see how Donald Trump would react after that videotape was released. It certainly was brought up. What do you think?
He was definitely on the hot seat, and if you watch the progress of the debate, it was about midway through before there were any questions about Hillary's email and the WikiLeaks. So he was the one who had the most to win or lose. I think the consensus is that he threw out a lot of red meat to his own supporters, most of whom seem to be willing to overlook his transgressions. It's not clear that he did very much, certainly to win Democrats, and probably not very much to win independents. We need to remember that although Trump did gather ultimately, a majority of the votes at the nominating convention, he really never got a majority of the voters, because remember, we started with 15, 16 different candidates. Right. And yes, he sort of bested them one by one, but it's not clear that if he had started out, against, say, just one or two of them, that's what the outcome would have been.
Right. Now, what you said there hits to me, and I'm wondering what the Trump supporters who watch this program will say, because, yeah, it does seem as though he's further solidifying, hitting, like you said, the red meat to his core support, and they are very, very strongly in support of him. But to win this election, he needs to expand. And based on what's happened from the debate, the video, and some of the other things in the past, I have not heard from anyone who said, well, you know what, I was really on the fence, or I was with Hillary, and now with what I've heard, I'm going over to Donald Trump. No, if anything, as you've seen from some of the Republicans who are in Congress, they are abandoning ship. And so he's not growing. He needs to grow to have a shot at winning the presidential election.
And the greatest irony of his defense of the tapes is that, well, I say a lot of things that I don't do. One might wonder, is this, what about campaign promises? Are they a lot of hyperbole as well?
Yeah, good point. Now, he'll bring up at times, well, I'm sure getting hammered on this tape, and he's given his explanation. And he'll say, well, what about, the WikiLeaks releases and with Hillary? And I certainly think that's worth looking at for her. She continues to address it. And some of these more recent WikiLeaks, talking about, some emails between her and some of her advisors on how to handle a position. That stuff, I'm sorry. I mean, you may say that's released, but look at it. It doesn't rise to the level of that I'm sorry, the video.
Well,
it's
and the
kind of inside
speeches-
pool and politics. The
Right.
speeches, I really don't care. Now, I do care about those emails that she had destroyed, that she was
Right.
using on an unsecured phone, and that's been out there.
Well, the problem with the speeches, of course, is there is a possibility that she's saying one thing in public and another in private.
But again, what politician doesn't? I just don't think that's going to damage her
Right.
as much as the video. But in fairness, I mean, that is certainly something that's coming out with her.
Sure.
But I'm not sure that it's giving her the body blows that Donald Trump is getting from that so damaging. I mean, there's something about hearing it and saying it.
I agree.
As opposed to this. Now, do you suspect one way or the other that there will be other videos possibly coming out? I've heard this morning as I was following the news that there is outtakes, other videos, certainly from The Apprentice, and whether or not there is restrictions on whether any of that material can be
heard the
released.
same.
And the producer of the show may be having it, being pressured to release it, may not. The thing is, we still don't know where that video got to the Washington Post. The bottom line is it may not be released through normal channels, but if there's other damaging video out there, at some point I would imagine it's going to be leaked.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I think the video is far more powerful than audio, which is far more powerful than, as you say, just the release of emails,
Right.
which you sort of have to ponder through. And actually, Clinton, I don't know if it's correct, but I think Trump sort of missed an opportunity. Clinton says, well, what I really meant was I was referring to Abe Lincoln. And his response, of course, should have been, well, if that's what you really meant, why don't you release the speeches so we can all see the context? The problem, of course, is he hasn't released his income tax. So,
Yeah.
you get sort of, well, you do this and I'll do this. And
Yeah.
the same cycle continues.
I saw Warren Buffett yesterday released his income tax returns,
I
made it public, and saying because I think Donald Trump.
I
is
hope he
making
paid
reference
more
to
than
him.
I did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's a rich man. But when you look at that situation of the core and what Donald Trump has to deal with now, and whether or not more video comes out, and whether or not anyone. If you don't think more video exists, you're naive.
Yeah. Well,
There's going to be more. Now, whether that's fair or not and what it catches him in and whether you buy that that's just locker room humor, which I've got to say, I've been in plenty of locker rooms, both as an athlete and as a reporter. That is not the kind of conversation. Yeah, there's some off-color stuff in a locker room. Not like that.
It reminds me of John McCain's old quip that the Democrats would spend like a drunken sailor, except that would be a slight on sailors.
Yeah,
And
right.
I have a feeling that we have a slight on people in locker rooms here.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Now, the larger picture beyond Donald Trump yesterday was Paul Ryan,
Yes.
the very powerful Republican Speaker of the House, who did not say he would not endorse him, but is pretty much, through sources, said during a phone call with Republican leaders that he's no longer going to defend Donald Trump. And that his focus now, and there's Paul Ryan, is going to be on trying to protect their seats in the Congress and the House.
Right.
And because of what's happening with the GOP right now, and it really is in disarray, they could lose the Senate. I'd be surprised if they lost the House. It may narrow, but they could lose the Senate.
They could. Something similar happened in 1996 where Republicans about this point decided that Bob Dole could not win the presidency and they would do their best to save Congress. But the difference is that it wasn't because of perceived moral failing of Bob Dole. It was just they didn't think they had the electoral vote. Here you had the additional element of, if Trump appears sleazy, do you appear sleazy by appearing with him?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because if you abandon Trump, then you alienate his core supporters,
Sure.
and he does have a large number. And it's interesting talking about this here in the state of Tennessee, where clearly, despite whatever's happened to this point, I have absolutely no doubt that Donald Trump will carry the state of Tennessee. He will carry the state of Tennessee.
I think that's likely.
And there's a large core of Trump supporters here. And Tennessee is a very Republican state. But you do have yesterday, of course, two Tennessee congresswomen yesterday, Marsha Blackburn and Diane Black, both condemned what he said about women in the tape, but say they still will support him. But you do have the leader of the Republican Party in the state, the most powerful elected official in the state, the governor himself, saying he's done with Donald Trump.
Yes.
And I wonder if do you imagine that Haslam calculated this? When I kind of put that on my Facebook page, and I've got a lot of followers now. So when I follow that, I get a sense of what people are thinking. Many of Trump's supporters were furious with Haslam, and I wonder did Haslam calculate what kind of political damage? Not that he really has to worry about it.
Well, he's not running for election.
He's not running again. I wonder if he would have done it if he was. Does he worry about damaging things politically for himself one way or the other by doing this? And alienated some of the Trump supporters.
The person who's really in the middle of this, of course, is Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Who, what can you do? He's on the ticket. He said he would not defend, but if he were to back out, of course, then the Republicans would have to choose a new vice president, and if you were doing that, there would always be the temptation to see if you could replace both of them. But I think at this point it's probably just too late for that to happen.
Yeah, Pence. That was interesting because Trump did pretty much throw him under the bus at one point during the debate, where he more or less said, "I completely disagree with him," and then Pence, of course, canceled an appearance to campaign on behalf of him the next day. But then yesterday he came out and talked about forgiving him for his transgressions and that he never once considered stepping down. But there are people out there saying they'd rather see Pence at the top of the ticket instead of Trump.
Well, there's some who prefer Kane to Hillary as well.
That's right. Trump. Yeah, that's right. Trump is not going to step down. That man, under no circumstance will he.
There's one circumstance where he could. Richard Nixon, who constantly said, "I am not a quitter," nonetheless stepped down when he was convinced that it was necessary for the party, for the country, and maybe for his own reputation. We do need to remember Trump has a brand, and that's how he makes his money. And if his brand is irreparably damaged, he might want to do something to salvage it.
And
again, not likely, but it could.
Because I don't see him. I think him maybe looking out. But I've always said, with Donald Trump and his race here, that he wins either way. In my opinion, I think somehow, some way, that man as a businessman is going to find a way to make money coming out of this election.
Well, he said he was going to be the only person who ran for president and earned money.
And he's going to earn money running for money. And if he wins, of course, we know he becomes president. If he loses, I think the Trump brand, at least among those who believe in him, will still remain strong. But you're right. Depending on how badly he loses, if he does, that could really damage him. And maybe that's what he takes a look at, because he, first and foremost, I think, does look out for himself. We'll take a break on that note. When we come back, your thoughts, your opinions, agree, disagree. Let's just open it up for you, because an awful lot going on in just a fascinating election year. The number 737-7587. Your thoughts coming back right after this.